Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's great to get an opportunity just to sort of share my perspective. I guess a little bit about me. My role in Barclaycard today spans across both the acquiring side and the issuing side, so working closely with the end user at both ends of the payment chain, which in itself presents a unique opportunity to look at the impact of regulation at both those ends. I've been in payments for 20 plus years now, and I would say that today, around this period of time, it is extremely exciting. I've seen change happen across those 20 years, and it's only just starting to accelerate. And a lot of that is driven by regulation, which underpins some of that innovation that comes into the market. And PSD2 will be a key driver of that innovation as we go forward. I really believe, actually, and embrace some of the changes that are sort of coming out in the technical standards, especially around secure communication. But I think they can go further in the way that in the UK, through the open banking work that's happening there, where the UK banks are working closely with third parties to really define those standards. So it goes to Gail's point about creating that infrastructure and way to communicate. So in order to allow that greater, I guess, competition. That's not something as a bank we are afraid of. We embrace it. We want to do the best for our customers. We want to provide them with an optimal end user experience. Likewise, the intent around strong customer authentication, it's good. We all want to eradicate fraud. We all want to make it difficult for fraudsters. We're very motivated to do that. Customers hate it when there's fraud in their account. We hate it because it costs us money. Merchants hate it as well because it costs them money. So we're all in it together. We all want to make it better. I think the unfortunate thing about how the technical standards are currently drafted is that consumer experience will start to break the model as it stands today. Today, 95% of transactions are authenticated in the background through risk profiling. That's a significant move forwards from where it was years ago. And consumers are therefore protected from fraud. Fraud levels haven't increased over that time period. 100 variables are used to do that risk profiling. So it's extremely sort of intricate and there's a high level of intellect there. And as we move into machine learning, it can only get stronger. The issue that we have with the technical standards as they're currently drafted is it might stifle this innovation. It might stifle the motivation to actually continue with this risk profiling and that desire to eradicate fraud. And I agree with some of the points that have been made. By applying two-factor authentication at every step of the way, with frankly some further complications down that sort of payment journey, that customer journey will become very tiresome for many of us in this room. So imagine you're shopping, you're buying your groceries, you're doing it on Friday night, which is when you do it every week. It's a pretty similar amount. You're on the same computer that you always use. And yet again, you're asked to two-factor authenticate. And the way the regs read, which is slightly unclear for us, is you may, on top of the two-factor authentication and having to use different devices, you may in fact then receive a further authorization or authentication code, the names are interchangeable there, which you as a customer may have to input to finalize that transaction. It just doesn't feel like the experience as an industry we're trying to drive for. And actually, I don't think it will help fraud. It won't necessarily reduce fraud levels, certainly not over time. The fraudsters are incredibly clever, and the cyber threat is growing, and fixing the solution now will only make it easier for them to sort of identify the way around it. So I've given you a good sense of one of the key criteria is really around risk profiling. It also extends to the exemptions and where we apply those exemptions. Today, as many of my colleagues have said, merchants don't have the ability. Merchants have the ability today to override the second factor authentication and apply a one-click solution or an invisible payment solution, and that is certainly starting to become more prominent in the payments space and in the E&M commerce space. Applying two-factor authentication in the way that is described may stifle that and may actually make that experience at the consumer level very poor. I think we just need to think creatively. I think the intent is there, and I think there needs to be creative thought applied to how we actually tackle this issue, and not rigidity that stops that innovation and sort of future sort of, implementation and the enablement of merchants to really sort of push and drive their commerce. I think that's all I'm going to say for now, because I'm sure we're running short on time, but thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.